Good evening, everyone. If you're watching this later, go ahead and fast forward to about 2, 3 minutes um, before I really get started. We give people a little bit of time to get into the show in here. Um, it's not the show actually. The show is normally at 9 o'clock on Tuesday. Join me 9 o'clock on Tuesday if you want to be for the live show. It's an impromptu live video tonight. I'm gonna give about 2 minutes or so before I get started. I'm gonna talk about a little bit about the history of the black leadership since the civil rights movement. Actually, since we've been here. How you doing, Ron? I love you too, bro. And but for the most part, we're going to talk about how we can fix it. What happened? Why things still broken? Why we haven't progressed as we should have after the movements of the '60s? Why the leadership in the black community has continued to fail us since that time frame? We had a moment of great leadership. Had a moment. Actually, we had many moments, I should say, since for a while. But after the 1960s, black community really hasn't had good leadership. Leadership has consistently and continuously failed. And that's what we're going to talk about for about an hour. Like I said, if you're watching this later, skip to about 2, 3 minutes. You're almost at 2 minutes already. So give it one more minute and give a few more people an opportunity. If you're finding me for the first time, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. I do want to thank all my patrons. So let me do some preliminary things right now while we're talking, while I'm getting ready. So if you are a patron on my Patreon, we are going to start a 1-year journey on Patreon. How you doing, Sean? Yeah, we're probably just going to do an hour. But when I say an hour, I'm usually lying. But on Patreon, we're going to start a video series on the Tao Te Ching. We're going to take one video per saying. I think it's 81 sayings, and we're going to spend about every 3, 4, maybe 5 days. I'll put out another video on Patreon for the Tao. Not that we're trying to spread a religion, because the Tao isn't a religion. It's a philosophy. It's a philosophy of living. It's a philosophy of building. It's freezing. You know what? I'm not on the Wi-Fi. Let me get on the Wi-Fi. That might make it better. Maybe my LTE signal may not be strong enough. But we're going to spend a year on my Patreon talking about the Tao. Really visually. Similarly to how last year we spent a lot of time. Let me know if it's still freezing, guys. We spent a lot of time going over. We did the Kabbalion last year. We did a portion of the richest man in Babylon. We spent last year. We did the outwitting the devil. Most of those videos are on Patreon. So in this one of the Tao Te Ching, the book the Tao Te Ching, and we'll probably do another book in the midst of that. We'll spend about 90% of the videos will be just on Patreon. Only a few will be on YouTube and Facebook. So, you know, if you're on my Patreon, I want you to get ready for that. Let me know is it still freezing? Let me know. Cause I switched over to my Wi-Fi. Let's see what it's doing. I mean, not Wi-Fi. Yeah, where the Wi-Fi? The Wi-Fi. So if it's still freezing, let me know. It looks kind of weird for me. I'm talking, but then the video seems like it's lagging. So, Shandell, I'm waiting for you to tell me. Seems better? Okay, great. So that's what we're going to be doing on Patreon this year. We're going to, actually, you know, I know on Patreon we're going to do the book, The Tao, and we're also going to do the Emerald Tablets. The Tao and the Emerald Tablets are the 2 books that we're going to do on. So if you're not a member of Patreon, you'll only get about 10% of those videos. But so as we move forward, and we've been discussing getting the Temple of Learning, getting it going. Temple of Wisdom, actually, is what I want to call it. The Temple of Wisdom going. We'll teach alchemy. We'll teach, how to change your life. We'll teach finances. We'll teach economics. We'll teach how to manifest in your life, how to create, how to build, the hermetics, the laws of cause and effect, the law of mentalism. We'll teach all those things. Not from so much, and we'll use the wisdom of multiple philosophers as well as multiple cultures, and even we'll use the wise sayings or the wise teachings, and that's been tucked away in a lot of the religious book, and then surrounded by all the man-made stuff. But we'll pull the wisdom out of it. But in thinking about that, I had this very long conversation with a gentleman about a week or two ago, and it was a very good conversation. I've been thinking about it for ever since I had that conversation about a week or so ago, about why since the 60s we really haven't seen good leadership in the black community, and that lack of leadership is one of the main reasons why we find ourselves in the condition that we're in today, a condition where our neighborhoods can be, and I say our neighborhoods using that very loosely, meaning the neighborhoods that we gravitate towards, that we live in the most, that we are predominant. But it's not truly our neighborhood, right? People scared to get murdered before 40. Well, I'm gonna talk about that. But we say our neighborhood, but we don't own the land. We can't really call it our neighborhood if we don't own the land. We don't own the businesses in the neighborhood, so we can't call it our neighborhood. We don't own the plazas that the businesses are in, so it's not really our neighborhood. At any point in time, such as one of the plazas that my popcorn shop used to be in, Publix decided they wanted to leave, they left. They didn't have a stake in the neighborhood other than how much money they can get. The people who owned the building, they sold it. They sold it to somebody else. They didn't have a stake in it, but they owned the building. And this is a company that's up north somewhere. It's not a local company. It's not a local group or anything like that. So I was thinking about, we used to own the property. 60s and earlier, we owned property. We owned the neighborhood. We owned the houses. When I go back to my area of Atlanta that I grew up in Marietta, many of the old families that's been there for 5-6 generations, they own the property. You go to certain parts of Marietta, and all that property has been owned by the family members for the better part of 50-60 years. But we don't see that going on anymore, and one of the problems is that we lack, how you doing, John? We lack a lot of the financial understanding. So that conversation I was having with this man from, hey, thank you, Ronald. I appreciate that. Thank you. I appreciate it. That'll be going towards the Temple of Wisdom. But this man, he's Haitian born, grew up mostly in America and London, and very knowledgeable about the history of Haiti. And so, and he's a bit older than I am, so he remembers integration and the 60s and that sort of thing. He was a child during that time frame, but he remembers it. So we was having a discussion about it, and he was asking me the question, why didn't the other men who was there with Malcolm, with Elijah Muhammad, with Martin, Stokely, Huey, what happened? Why didn't they take on the role of leadership and continue to grow? Thank you, Ronald. Thank you again. But why didn't they take on that leadership and continue to grow? And those movements should have continued. Now, if you've seen my coaching page, it says, a movement of leadership. And I said it was a movement of leadership because when I grew up in the Marine Corps has a movement of leadership. And I think a movement of leadership is what was lacking from all the civil rights movements and many of the organizations that we have today, right? You was in the nation in the 70s, all right. But from the 70s on, after Martin and Malcolm died, the leadership really started dying. And I thought about that. And I went and did some research, and because I don't just want it to be my thought. And then I went and did a lot of meditating. I sat in my meditation room, and I sat there for for hours over multiple days, just meditating on this one thought. This one thought. And I realized that the leadership that we had, although good, inspirational people who were inspired to change the community, to get something done, to try to help black people who were suffering under the continued oppression of America. You see, and they stepped up, and I applaud them for stepping up. But they were lacking. What was lacking was something that would continue beyond the one person. You see, I've hesitated in starting the Temple of Wisdom for a very, very long time. Before there was a YouTube, there was the idea of the Temple of Wisdom. Before there was Facebook, the internet, there was the idea for me. It had came to me to build the Temple of Wisdom, but there was a couple of things that bothered me about it. Because when I looked at organizations, what I saw was Martin with the SCLCU created built the organization up. He didn't create it, but built the organization up. But when he was murdered, he was assassinated, what happened to the organization? The other gentlemen who were in prime leadership position, who should have stepped up and continued the mission, went off and started their own missions. Rainbow Coalitions and John Lewis and these other gentlemen all becoming congressmen and senators. It's like the mission was gone. It was more about the men than the mission. And I know some say they saw one man get assassinated, saw Malcolm get assassinated. Then they brought it down, changed the game, worried about athletes receiving more millions instead of taking care of the people. And we're going to talk about that. Now, I actually came up with an acronym because you guys know I like to deal with, I did some videos about alpha men. What is that? True alpha man. And, we talk about being a lion. So I took the word lion, right? Ronald said it sounds like infiltration. Well, I don't think it's infiltration. I think they got played. They truly got played. Before I get into because stay with me, we're going to talk about the lion. When Malcolm and Martin got assassinated, it was during the time frame when they realized what the true power of the people was. All the time that they were, integration and they during segregation, all that time frame, sitting at the same lunch counter, having access to the same places, access to the same education, access, to all these different, drinking out of the same, just ending segregation, period. No more separations, having access to everything. And the other biggest thing that they talked about initially was the ability to vote, having access to vote. They saw voting as the true power of black people. They saw voting as the thing that they needed to get across more so than anything else. And I think they got played. I know they got played. Because as we've seen today, as hindsight being 2020, we know that voting is not the power. We don't have power. Voting is not your power base. We will never vote ourselves out of oppression. We can't vote ourselves out of the disparity of wealth. We can't vote ourselves into wealth. We can't vote ourselves into better education. Voting simply puts a puppet head in place to keep the illusion going. So they got played into voting. Now, if you think about when they were massacred, thank you, Tan, you're dang right. Damn right. When they got massacred, when they were murdered, when they were assassinated, what were they talking about then? They had realized that the real power of the communities of the oppressed people is not the ability to vote, but it's your money. It's your economic power. When you would think they would have seen it earlier with the bus boycotts and the other boycotts that was going on. that you would have thought they would have saw that. Wow, they get angry when you take their money away, when you break the system and take the finances away, when you freeze up an economy. You know, you freeze the economy of a city or a town or a state because you're no longer participating in their businesses, in their modes of earning and making money. Martin and Malcolm started realizing what a real power was, and that's when they were assassinated. But even in that, Homestead Act, I heard King was bringing up people before they were murdering him. Yeah, I have to go back and research that part. I haven't researched Dr. King in a very long time, like 20 years. I did just a little research before this video. But it was mainly about the leadership. If you got, like, I love Marvel. I'm a Marvel fan. I've been reading Marvel comic books since I was like 10 years old. I got like 6,000 books from the 80s. You know, I got some older ones too that I found in like trade shows and stuff and garage sales. But there was an organization in Marvel. It's a great organization if you take away the threat part of it. But it was Hydra. Hydra was an amazing organization because it truly didn't have a leader. They had a saying over and over again: cut off the head, two will go and grow up in its place. Cut off the head, two will grow up in its place. That was lacking from Dr. King's organization. That was lacking from Malcolm's organization, Huey, you know, the Black Panthers, their organization. It was lacking from a lot of the organization. Now, although the Nation of Islam did have a system where, you know, after Malcolm left and Elijah Muhammad, then you had Minister Farrakhan, and it's always one more person. They never develop a league of leaders. They never develop a system, kind of like in guerrilla warfare, where the next man steps up, and then the next 3, 4, 5, 6 step up, 2, 3 slots, so that you never have a void of leadership. The reason why we struggle to kill ISIS, as they say, these so-called terrorist organizations, one of the reasons why we struggle is because, and I know this for a fact because I was in the Marine Corps dealing with these kind of things. You think this guy is the primary leader, you kill this guy, and you think the organization disbands and there's no organization, but it doesn't work that way. You kill off this guy, and a whole nother cell over here has its own leadership, and then they take over, and then the guys who you don't kill in that cell, they grow up, you know, and they take over. You know, everything is set up in a way of training that the man below knows the job of 2, 3 people ahead of him. They used to tell us in the Marine Corps, when I first got to the Marine Corps, one thing that was said over and over again is, if you want to be if you're an E2 and you want to be an E5, start acting like one. If you're an E4, you want to be an E6, start acting like one. Start acting 2 or 3 ranks ahead. Start getting the knowledge and the wisdom and getting the attitude of 2, 3 ranks ahead. What was missing from a lot of those organizations was people who were thinking who was 2, 3 steps ahead, and they didn't step up. Now, there's a couple of reasons why they didn't step up. Now, I wrote this thing called Lion. His last speech was about the Homestead Act 1962. That's when the government said, that's it, we have to take him out. I'm gonna research that, Tan. Thank you for that. I'm gonna research that some more. I don't want to speak on it if I don't have all the information on it for myself. And I'm gonna research that some more. So, the first problem is that the organization truly lacked a belief in the why. And the why they're there. Dr. King gave a great speech, I Have a Dream. Malcolm gave many great speeches. I mean, Dr. King gave many great speeches as well, but I'm partial to Malcolm's speeches. It's personal preferences. But people didn't understand why. The leadership didn't understand why. Their personal selves became bigger than the why of the why of the mission. The first thing that we have to do, MLK actually survived the gunshot that killed him. Okay. That's the first time I ever heard that. I guess I got to go back and do a lot of research on Dr. King again. But when we create the Temple of Wisdom, I had a lieutenant who turned out to be the police and locked me up in my house in front of my kids. And that's foul. That is foul. The Temple of Learning has to be different. The reason why I never started it 20 years ago when I was first inspired, and I'm going to say inspired, because it wasn't something that I just said that'd be a good idea, or something that I just said I just want to help the black community grow. I was inspired to do so. Through meditation, through fasting at the time, I was inspired to build this temple. I had a couple of problems though. One, I didn't want my ego to become bigger than the organization. So I really had to drill down into my why, which is one of the reasons why it's taken me so long. I can't become bigger than the organization. No, and then the second part is no individual person can ever become bigger than the why of the why is there. The why is being created. The moment people start becoming bigger than the that's messed up. For real, that's messed up. The reason why Ronald, that is so foul. It's the A plot to kill the king. Okay, I'll check that out. Appreciate that one. No person can ever be bigger than the organization. You see, Dr. King became bigger than the organization. Malcolm became bigger than the organization. Elijah Muhammad for a time was bigger than the organization. Okay. By you know what? I did hear about that part. Now that you just jogged my memory with that part about the pillar of the suffocator. But even in the Nation of Islam, right now, it would be a fair assessment to say that Farrakhan is bigger than the organization. True, there are other lieutenants out there. There are other people who will step up. But right now, he's bigger than the organization. If he were to pass on, transition from this existence by whatever means that he does, the organization will suffer. The organization will suffer. And that's where we can't do that. We can't have that. The organization can't suffer because one person transitions either by assassination or natural causes, right? Or accident, either. But the point is no one person can be bigger than an organization. And in all of our movements of the 60s, all these organizations, there's always people who are bigger than the organization. So in building the Temple of Learning, first, no one can ever be bigger than the organization. So the reason why it's being created must always be at the forefront. It must always be at the forefront, right? And exactly, Born L. Wait, what do you say? Make sure. All right. It has to be based on a system of why. So what's the reason for this? What's the reason for having a Temple of Wisdom? Right? It is not for me. Trust me, my life will be much easier just making videos, building my own personal businesses, and go live on an island somewhere and not worry about anybody else other than my children. That would make life easy. That life would be real easy. So it's got to be, so why the organization? And it's simply this. It's just as I stated in my video about leaving America, about going to places like Botswana and Haiti, the videos I've done about that. It is about actually being able to build a safe haven, economically empowered country and countries at this point that black people can go to and live, thrive, that we can do just as everybody else, and just as other people in this world do, go build businesses all over the world, but control the land that we live in, control the schools, the education that is given to our children, and control the politicians and the police that governs us. That is the purpose, to empower people, the general mass, to be able to do that. And one of the reasons why we're going to study the Tao in Patreon is because the Tao teaches a form of leadership to the point where the people believe that they created it, that they manifested the abundance, they manifested the peace, they manifested the everything, the lineage, and the leadership didn't do it, that they did it. When the people believe that they did it, then it becomes their culture. It becomes who they are as a people. And that's where those organizations messed up. Integration we didn't become a people. Having the right to vote, we didn't become a people. We didn't create the African American Party or the Black Party. We didn't create something that became part of our culture. We created the Democrats like us now. So we're all going to be Democrats, or the Republicans liked us then, and we're all going to become Republicans, or whatever the wind blows. The vote is manipulated. The parties that we don't control is easily changed and manipulated. But what's not manipulated is when you own the land, when you own the schools, when you control the police and the government, right? When you control your own mind and body, you can't be that's not, and that becomes part of your system, your ethos, right? So that has to be that's the why, to create a culture in countries like America and England and Germany and Brazil. We're not going to create an independent society, but more of an interdependent society, an inter-economic society. I don't like to use sub, but truly, the true definition, it would be a subculture within the culture. In countries like Haiti, Jamaica, Trinidad and Tobago, Nigeria, and Ghana and Gambia, and Botswana, those are countries where we can build a nation, where we can grow nations and continue to develop nations, develop unity, a home base. The Spanish community have a home base. They create a subculture here in America, a sub-economic culture here in America, but they have a home base. They have a home base that they can always look to, go to. They can always work with. They got people there. I met a guy, every year he goes back to Mexico for 3-4 weeks. Right? He got a home base to go to. We can create that home base. Now, I know some people are going to say that home base is here in America. Like I said, in America, you're not going to create that home base. You're just not. Not to the extent of a nation, a sovereign nation. You see how like the Cherokee and the Sioux. Now you can do that, but you got to get academia to agree to it, and you got to also get the government to agree to it. And in order for the academia and the government to agree to it, you got to infiltrate people in there to make that change. And I just personally don't think it's worth it in America when there's so much other land and territory. When there are so many other places where we already got a foothold, we already got a place, right? Yeah, there was some colonization in those places, but we're there. We're running it. Hey, Cornelia, how you doing, young lady? So I want to start this out by talking about, I want to get into some leadership training for just a few minutes. How you doing, Nick? I want to get into some leadership training. Coach, if people can't subdue ego, it's a lost cause. But people can subdue the ego. And it takes a certain kind of leadership to help people to be able to move into that point. And that's why, like I said, I thought about this like 2 weeks after me and this gentleman had this conversation. Right? And to subdue the ego is really about understanding the true nature of people, the true nature of the universe, true nature of how things just work, and accepting it is just what it is. Now, in this, I was going to do this as a regular video, so it would have like stuff popping up right now, so that y'all can see exactly what it was. So this is going to be the cheap version because my whiteboard is down in the garage, so I'm not going to go get that and so I can write it up here. Nope. Y'all going to get the post note version. So, see, the post note version got messed up writing like this. Lion, the true alpha, right? I did a video before where I talked about a lion, how a true alpha lion, he nurtures, he takes care of the community. He leads. Puts people in the right position for them to succeed. And that's what we have to do. We have to be a lion about things. So the first one I wrote down was the L. Lead the community. Lead the community. Now, when we look back at the 60s and 70s and whatnot, we see, and we look at current day leadership in the community, what do we see? We see athletes. We see singers and entertainers. We see congressmen and senators who can know how to come and make a speech, right? They know how to stand in the halls of government and make a speech, but they're not leading the community. All they're doing is they're taking your vote and they're standing there making speeches. They're voting for things to make sure they keep their job. They might have they may do a little something for the community here. They have a job fair for the community over there. They may get one bill passed or one tax thing passed here and there. Just enough to keep you from, firing them. Just enough to keep you thinking that they're doing some real work for you. But in this respect, we're going to do real leadership. If you have a desire to be a part of the leadership in the thank you, appreciate that. But if you have a true desire to be in leadership of the Temple of Wisdom, then you have to lead the community by example. By example. You have to lead the community by doing and fulfilling some of the missions within it. What is the primary mission in the Temple of Wisdom? It's to teach people to be economically responsible and how to build generational wealth and how to teach teach each generation how to keep building. To set up a system, I know people don't like this family, but to set up a system much like the Rothschilds, who, I don't know who Fred Hampton is. I might know who he is, I just don't know the name. But to set up a system much like the Rothschilds, where if you don't show and prove to the family that you can earn, that you can build wealth, you can't keep coming to the family bank and get money out. That you can't do that, right? So I'm not applauding the Rothschilds for some of the jacked up things they do, but that aspect that Mayor Rothschild started, I respect that. You look at some of these families who have become wealthy, by the fourth generation, they've lost half the wealth that was originally created. Right? So to truly be the leader, to lead the community, you can't be a broke leader of the community and the way you make money is off you giving speeches to the community. Fred Hampton is a black party member that was killed by police. That sounds familiar to me, but I have to go back and look at that again. Y'all have to realize I was studying a lot of this stuff back since I was like 9, 10, 11, 12 years old, and I'm 47, in my 20s before there was the internet. So a lot of things I haven't looked at in a long time, but that name sounds familiar as well. But we have to lead. So, like, one of our problems is that we don't have true business leaders as leaders in our community. If you ask anybody who's the primary leader in the community other than an entertainer or some politician, right, it would be the pastors and the imams and the priests. Now, the sad part about this, a pastor who made his money off the people, off tithes, is not the kind of person who can lead people economically and how to build business. Because they make their money off convincing people that if you don't give me money, you're going to hell. If you want your salvation, you got to give us money. You got to feed the kingdom of God, right? That's not good leadership because you're not leading the community. I'd rather have, my kid's mom, she remained Christian, and I would, go and I would actually and I would help out when we were married. And one thing I respected is that the last pastor, who's still a pastor at that church, he owned a business, right? Sometimes he was late because he was running his business, and he owned the business before he became a pastor. Not one of those, I became a pastor, I built up this church, and from the money that I got from the church, then I started a business, or then I wrote a book, and then I did whatever, because I used the money from that I earned from the church as seed money. Not that, not that, but somebody who actually had to build a business. T. Harv Eckert, in his organization, Secrets of the Millionaire Mind, if you want to become one of his coaches that creates these seminars and gets these people to spend like thousands of dollars at these seminars, you first have to become independently wealthy on your own, and then take a whole bunch of his classes before you can become a leader in his organization. That's how you build, how you first start building your leadership. So, I need, and I don't like to use the term need a lot, but I need a lot of you guys to be able to step up into those roles, because one way to keep, well, I'll get to there, but that's one way we keep this from being about one person, and we keep it about the mission. So the leadership, so you got to lead the community by example, you know, and it all doesn't have to be people who go and they become the number one, they become a entrepreneur, because sometimes one of the things that's holding back a good entrepreneur or a good business is they need a good number two, a good number three, a good number 4 or 5 or 6. They need somebody who's, they're not the type of person who can take on all the responsibilities of a business but they can take on all the finances, or they can take on the logistics, you know, they can move the marketing, you know. So being a, think about it, the number 27th, I like how Gary Vee always say this, the number 27th person in Facebook is wealthier than most people in the world. So you don't always have to be a number one. So we need people who go and they attain higher education, those who build businesses, those who climb corporate ladders, and they can take that information and we can teach how to climb corporate ladders in other countries. I know 3 brothers, well, I used to know them, 3 brothers who was in my reserve program where they were reservists in the Marine Corps. When apartheid had ended and Mandela became president, they took all the diversity manuals from the company they worked for, and they went and started a diversity consulting system, a diversity integration system, consulting company in South Africa, and did a bang up job, made a bunch of money. So we ain't always got to be, you know, there are different ways, but you have to lead by example. You have to buy your house. You have to buy your house. All right? The house you live in, you need to buy it. You need to have a credit score that's 700. Right? We can't go to the people telling them, hey, if you do this and do that, your credit score will get up to like this. If you're in the 3s, we can get you to the 6. You're in the 4s, we can get you to the 680s and 700. You're in the 5s, we get you to the 700. You need to be there. You need to be there. You know, and as you're growing and learning, you know, your scores grow and learn. Your ability to buy a house grows. Your ability to start a business or just become financially aware of what's around you, so that you can own the property, own the land, and know how to invest your money. You got to be doing that. We have to do that, right, in order to lead the community. Now, the second thing, so that was L for life. I'm not getting my whiteboard, so we're doing the cheat version. Inspire the change, right? Now, first, you see how they work well together? If you're leading by example, it's easier to inspire the change. Because if you did it, they can do it. We have to inspire change, not inspire hope. We have to convince people, show them that they can do it. The reason why I've done, I think thus far, 3 or 4 videos in the last couple of months saying how different people have gotten an 87-point boost in their credit score or a 37-point boost in their credit score is because the more people you see doing it, the easier it is. It finally makes you think it's easy for you to do. Right. Yeah, exactly. You can't know everything. I'm gonna get to that. You can't know everything is part of it too. But like, so because I kept doing those videos, one of my clients that I've been nagging for months about doing a couple of the simple things to go out there and get a pledge loan from a credit union. Finally went and did it. Finally went and got doggone thing a couple days ago. Been knowing about it since the summer. But then she saw this person do it. She saw that person do it. She saw these other people. So by us doing it, we inspire change. We have to inspire people to make the change. We have to make it real, right? We can't sell hope. We can't sell hope, right? We can sell the law of cause and effect. For every cause, there is an effect. For every effect, there is a cause. There is no such thing as chance or luck. Everything has a causation to it. You want to buy the house, you got to get your credit right. You got to be able to save some money. If you got a 580 credit score, then you need to save 3.5% of whatever you're buying a house for. So if all you can save is $3,500 for a down payment, you got a 580 credit score, then hey, the cause and effect of that is that you can get a $100,000 house. Is that three? Yeah, a $100,000 house. Right, no more hope dealers, only doers. All right, doers only. So we have to sell them on the reality of things, that this is the real. You know, it's just like when I was a personal trainer. I had to sell my clients on what was real. Calories in minus calories out equals your weight. And if you have some kind of pathology, then we just have to make some adjustments. But it's still going to be calories in minus calories out, just adjusted based on your sickness or your pathology. That's it. That's all it is. There's nothing else to it. You can tell me about every fad this and fad that, and I didn't care. Calories in, calories out equals your weight. You got a pathology, we incorporate changes for that. You know, so when it comes to health, it just is what it is. If you eat too much, when you eat meat rots in your colon. It just does. Now, if you choose to go ahead, these are the realities of it. Doesn't mean you have to become a vegetarian or even vegan. You don't have to do all that. It's up to you. But don't complain about the differences. And even if you become a vegetarian or a vegan, if you eat too much pasta, eat too much rice, you're still going to be unhealthy. If you eat too many calories, you're still unhealthy. You can eat ice cream all day if you're vegetarian. Guess what? You're unhealthy. So it's just the reality of things. Getting rid of the myths. No more myths. So we have to inspire change by letting people see the reality and keep them focused on what's real. What's real. Dr. King and had people focused on getting voting rights, right? And when he started talking about money, yeah, they killed him. But after he passed on, what did they start talking about? All they talk about is voting rights. Oh, it's an election. So let me go make sure that they counting all the chads, and they make sure they not doing still doing Jim Crow style voting irregularities in these black communities. Oh, let's make sure they got enough equipment, enough machines. Why they got a bunch of machines over here, not enough over there? Those are legit things, but too much focus is put there. Kind of like this dang on wall. Everybody got this focus on this wall while other things is going on that you're not paying attention to, right? Government shutdown. You're not paying attention to some other things. You got to see the whole picture and the reality of the picture and keep people focused on what's going to make the biggest difference. You know, when we do goal planning, when I work with people as far as changing their life and we get to a section, a part where we talk about goals, you know, they may list 10 goals. And then I'll ask them, which one of those goals will have the biggest effect on your life and make all the rest of them easier to accomplish? So in the black community, what is the one goal that will make the biggest effect, that will have the biggest effect? And that is that we control our wealth. We control our economics. If we control the economics in the black community, it'll make the biggest difference in our lives. Because when you control the economics, we control the schools, we control the land, we control the government, we control what businesses. There's an area of town not too far from here where the richest neighborhood, and it's one of the largest neighborhoods, they decided that no more on this one street, And no more car dealerships, no more car mechanic places. Matter of fact, it's no more car anything can get a license to do automotive work or sell anything automotive on that street. No more check cashing places, and no more pawn shops, and no more liquor stores can be. And it's like a 6-7 mile stretch of a road, and no one can. And this one neighborhood that has about 1,200. It's a big neighborhood. It has about 1,200 houses, right? That one neighborhood, because they own all their property, and they control the police, and they control who gets voted, who gets voted in, and they got it. They had it done. The economics, controlling our economics, because when we control our economics here and wherever we are in high concentration, as far as in the Western world, in Brazil and England, when we control our economics within the culture of the country's economics, and then we move those monies and help build countries where there is sovereignty. See, that's the difference. Where, and I probably should have said this earlier. Me and the gentleman talked about the fact how many of the youth in the Caribbean and in Africa are influenced by British and American black people. We sagging over here, they start sagging over there. We make certain type of music over here, they just make that music, add some of their spin to it. It's mimicry, it's modeling. What we lack in organization in America, we have in influence, but we allow our influence to be taken away from us and manipulated. We got to bring that back and have it. Question, why did they fight for the Voting Rights Act when they had the 19th Amendment passed? Right, now that's not off topic. That's a swerve. That's what I'm saying. It's a distraction. See, that leadership got distraction, right? Afrobeats is an example, sure is. But that leadership got distracted. See, after King and Malcolm and Stokely and Huey and all them guys were gone, they got distracted. And I mean, think about it. You got the amendments that says everybody has the right to vote. And then the Voting Rights Bill, Voting Rights Act. And here's the spin on the Voting Rights Act. One is an act. So it's something that the president created, right? Outside of Congress, I think. Yeah, it's outside of Congress, but the president does it. And then the other part, it has to be renewed. So it's a continued distraction. As long as you keep paying attention, we got to renew it. We got to make sure they renew it, because if they don't renew it, then they're going to make you guess how many marbles are in a jar and you can't vote. Now, as well as I do, if you went somewhere and they tried to say that you got to guess how many marbles, you post that stuff all over social media, and that stuff, they'd have a hissy fit. All hell will break loose. And nobody's doing that. But they got these black politicians distracted thinking that they got to renew this Voting Rights Act. You got the right to vote. You got the right to vote. I don't even understand it. It don't even make sense. They had people scared that they was going to repeal. I forgot what amendment it is. I think it's maybe the 14th or something like that. But that got rid of slavery. All right, let's say they repealed that and said that, and just got rid of it because they said, the Declaration of Independence said that all men are created equal, so no slavery. We all created equal, and we're taking that to mean all men now, not just landowning white Anglo-Saxon males, right? So all people, man and woman, right? If they got rid of that, do you really think that they will be able to come in and enslave people? But I saw people get truly distracted by that. 13th Amendment, thank you. I mean, if they came in, trust me, come to this house, try to say, well, we repealed slavery, so my name is Billy Bob, and my name's Billy Bob Reed, and your name's Reed, so hell, you must be my slave from back in the day, so come on. Billy Bob gonna get shot. Billy Bob gonna get some knife work going on. That's not happening. It's not gonna happen. But we get distracted by things like the Voting Rights Act. So we have to inspire change by keeping people focused on what really creates change. That has the biggest effect of change, right? So that was the I. So L-I and the O. This is the one that keeps our ego down. This is the one that keeps the organization from becoming shrinking in the face of a charismatic person. And that is this one. The O. Own it together. Own it together. Like I said earlier, Dow-centric leadership teaches that the people should feel like they created it without the leadership. Should look at the leadership and be like, what'd you do? We did this, right? That they didn't have to be led. That after they were inspired to make that change, they own it. It becomes part of their ethos, who they are. You know, when you buy your own house, when you buy the house, now yeah, you're gonna have to keep paying taxes on it forever. So I know that argument. But when you buy the house and you say you got paperwork that says that this is your property, and then everybody in the neighborhood buys the house, and everybody's saying this is our property, we're gonna take care of this neighborhood. We're gonna make sure that everybody keep the grass cut. We're gonna make sure that we got our what do you call them, the people who walk the neighborhood, make sure everybody's safe. The little patrols. You know, we're gonna make sure everything, because this is our property. We care about it more because we own it. And since we own the neighborhood, you know, our kids go to the local school. So we need that principal to know we own the neighborhood. We need them teachers to know we own this neighborhood. We need our kids to know that too. That this is home. We own this. We own the plazas that surround our neighborhood, and we own the businesses. Right. It's like a homeowners association, and some people do build, and that's the original, you know, I like homeowners association, but then I hate homeowners association. They go a little overboard. But you can do this without it being an association. You can do this just by owning it. I've been to neighborhoods where there is no homeowners association, but for the most part, everybody who lives there owns the houses, and they just take care of it. It creates there's just a sense about it that's created, because you care about your yard, you care about your neighborhood, and you know, you go through that, and you're on a good Saturday, you see people cutting the grass and trimming up things, because if your neighbors is doing it, everybody wants to do it. The neighborhood that I lived in Florida, there was a bunch of retirees. So them was always in their yard, right? Right, proud of ownership. They were always in their yard. Now, I was in the Marine Corps. And the first time. I worked on the other side of town. I had to deal with 3 different commands. I was busy. I had reservists that we had to train every other weekend. Well, every 3rd weekend or something like that. I was busy. But everybody else's yard was looking good. I want my yard to look good too. That dude on like three rows over in the neighborhood, he had that good St. Augustine grass. And we was in a drought. And I wanted that good St. Augustine grass. So I paid the money to have a well dug in my yard, put my house on well water, and paid to have that St. Augustine grass planted so I can water it all the time. Because he had that good St. Augustine. And then other people tried to do the same thing. And we all just started, you know, just taking better care of our property. You know, I saw a dude pressure washing his driveway. I went and got a pressure wash. I pressure washed my driveway, the stonework, the whole dang house. It was supposed to just been there's the driveway, but I went up doing the whole house. And everybody started pressure washing their neighborhood. You know, it's just, it's a mind shift. The shared mind is created. So if the people own it, you know, and as people grow, you know, you let them come in and teach. That was the beauty of when Emperor Sargon created the Temple of Wisdom in Babylon, is that although he picked out a few people to initiate it, it became a place where anybody who thought that they had something to teach could come and teach. And people would come in, and this room may be teaching one thing, and that room is teaching something else, and they just talking. No, and everybody was on equal footing. Everybody was on the same level, right? Nobody, the richest man come in, and this guy is a farmer. They're on the same level when they're in the Temple of Learning, right? And if the farmer is teaching, the rich man doesn't say, well, I'm rich, so I'm going to supersede the farmer. No, the farmer is teaching because he's teaching about farming. Because guess what the farmer knows about? He knows about farming. The fisherman is teaching. Why? Because the fisherman knows about fishing. You know, The desert guy, the camel herder, don't come and supersede the fisherman when they talking about fish. So the temple of wisdom has to be such that if somebody has knowledge about something, they're allowed to come in and teach it. You know, I have a financial program of building wealth and taking over the neighborhoods and all that sort of thing. And in that, I was telling every pastor that I went to that this will help you become a mega church. I tried to appeal to their ego, and they like that part. You become a mega church if you do this the way I'm telling you to do it. But they didn't like that part about people who got the ability to teach something or they got some knowledge about something, having the freedom to come in there and teach it. Not saying they had to get up there on the podium on Sunday and all that kind of, but it's a Tuesday. They want to come in, they're going to hold a class about knitting. Let them hold a class about knitting. I know a lady who gets paid $10,000 to go to Vegas to be the keynote for the National Knitters Convention or whatever it was called. So the Temple of Wisdom is everybody owns it. Everybody feels a piece of it. Everybody knows that they have equal standing. That way the leadership doesn't get out of hand. Because the leadership don't control nothing. Right? They're just there to make sure everybody gets a fair shake. That everybody has an opportunity to grow. They're just there to make sure the gears, everything moves fine. Yeah, the leadership should be able to teach the basic core principles. But if somebody, you get somebody who know credit better than me, come on, teach it. Somebody who know taxes better than I do, come on and teach it. You know alchemy better than I do, okay, come on and teach it. I'll sit in the audience and learn from you. You have to have that. Leaders will have to have that level of humility to say that I can learn because I don't know everything. And I don't. And here's the thing. I've studied a bunch of stuff. I don't remember half the stuff I've studied over the last 30-something years. Right? That's a long time and a lot of books. Right? I didn't listen to audiobooks until a couple years back, and I really don't like them. That's why I went to buy some more books the last 2 days. That's a lot of books. There are books that, like the ISIS papers. I haven't read the ISIS papers since probably around 93, 94. It was around the last time I read the ISIS paper. I can't tell you, for the life of me, I can't even tell you what a lot of the information in that book was. But I retain things because I learned something. From that, I learned this and this and this and this. And I may say something that's written in the ISIS paper, but I don't cognitively know that is written there, is what I'm saying. As far as my knowledge of it right now. Right? So, yeah, it's very classic, but a lot of people read it. The Pale Horse. Hadn't read that in 20 years. Black Robes, White Justice. Hadn't read that in 20 years. It's a lot of these books hadn't read. What was the book? Ancient African Civilization? It was something civilization. Written by, I forgot who wrote that one. I know the cover. I can see the cover of it in my mind right now. But there's a lot of books. Hadn't read in a long time. Corpus Hermeticum. Hadn't read that in a long time. So if somebody want to come in and they want to say, we're going to do a book review of the ISIS paper, I'm more than likely, as a leader, you have to be willing to go sit and listen. Right? Yeah, I do read. But that's how we get to own it together. People get to own it. And this is another reason why we lead by building businesses and being in the higher echelons of business and being a good number one, good number two, good number threes in businesses, so that we recognize that we all own it together. That we are, when we're building in Botswana and Ghana and Haiti and that sort of thing, that from the lowest level person, they have the opportunity to get involved in it, right? So that everybody owns it to the level that they want to. I was they're here in Atlanta, at the America's Mart, they're having the gift mart show. So I was going there to do some wholesaling this week. And I met a guy, has a company, for all military people. 57 of them got together to start a hot sauce company. 57 dudes. And the youngest and lowest ranking of all them dudes is just as equal as everybody else. Now, of course, the one who put the most money in, they got their hierarchy of jobs, but as far as respect, they all got the same level of respect. So that's what we have to be able to give the same level of respect. We teach one, what do they say? we want everybody. I had a little slogan, a little saying. I have to remember what it was because it makes a great T-shirt. But you know, I know it's each one teach one, but it's another thing that I said after that, and I can't remember for the life of me right now. But we're gonna teach, but we also gotta do. We gotta do, and then we gotta, and as others are inspired to do, we all begin to own it together. That way, let's say I get offed. The organization doesn't die. Like Hydra. Chop off one head, 2 or 3 grows in its place. The next 3, 4 persons should be able to step up and say, hey, I already know how to do what he was doing. I already know how to take over where he left off. I already know how to take over where she left off. It shouldn't matter. We have to make sure that everybody feels like they own it. And the last part about being a lion is this one. Nurture the children. You see, what Mayor Rothschild did, he made sure his sons knew how to earn. And he taught them how to earn money and how to build business, how to gain power and control over countries, how to play both sides of the fence, how to use information to your best advantage to corner the markets. And then he taught his grandkids and made sure his sons were part of teaching his grandkids, teaching the kids. And then in doing that, he showed his sons what they need to do with what they need to do with their kids and what they need to do with their grandkids. And they kept that cycle going. They kept nurturing the children. They didn't tell the children that now you get to live lavishly. No, they made them work. They made them earn. You know, my grandfather tried to convince me when I was 12 years old to learn how to lay bricks. But I was like, I'm 12. I'm making $10 an hour carrying the bricks and mixing the mud and building the scaffolds. I'm 12. I'm good with $10 an hour. What? I just worked 80 hours. I got $80 today, and I'm 12 years old in what, 1980s, the early 80s, early mid 80s. I mean, that's a lot of money to a 12-year-old. All right? You know how much candy I can buy with that back then? So I didn't have a desire to. So one summer, he tricked me. He told me the mud machine was broke. So I had to mix that mud, mix that cement by hand with a shovel. Well, yeah, a shovel and some water in a trough. And I'm mixing it by hand. And I still got to keep them bricks going. He made sure there was no other laborers. I was the only laborer. I still had to keep the bricks going. And I still had to keep that scaffold. I had to keep building scaffolds. I had to get there before the brick masons got there. I had to get there before them, make sure the scaffold was high enough, make sure they already had bricks, make sure they had mud on the little plates, the little boards and everything. I had to do all that work before they got there. And then after they leave, I got to, get everything put back and organized because everything had to be broom swept clean at the end of every day. They gone home. They sitting on the back of their truck drinking beer while I'm still laboring. And they getting paid twice as much. My grandfather only had to do that to me one summer. And I realized at that point that you have to, that as the child, you have to be attentive to teaching the children and nurturing them to do better for themselves, to grow into the best they can possibly grow into. It taught me to have a good work ethic, but it also taught me to always strive for the higher echelon, right? But we have to nurture it. If you see your children got talents at things, you have to pay a horse. That's a good book. But we have to teach them. You have to nurture their talents. My son has told me that he wants to take over my gourmet popcorn shop. I think that's great. That's awesome. Instead of having 3 kids in college, you're gonna have 2, right? So he said he wants to take it over. I'm willing to nurture that. I would love for all 3 of my kids to be in my business. But my middle child, she's an artist. She likes doing animation, illustration, animation illustration, gaming illustration. Let me be correct. She had to correct me. Gaming illustration. So instead of me trying to push her into my business, I nurture where she's at and what she wants to do. Help her to see all the possibilities of what she does and how it can work in different worlds, different genres. The same thing with my oldest girl. You know, she wanted to do corporate psychology. So now I will be able to use that later on, but I nurture my children for what talents that they have and nurture that talent and show them how they can become the best at whatever it is that they have that and a talent or a desire or an interest in, right? So we have to nurture the children. So a true lion understands that leading the community by example, inspiring the change in people so that they understand the why they're changing and make it their own, and then own it together. We own the entire organization together, and then we nurture the children so that it is not lost on the next generation. But we also have to nurture the leadership. Dr. King and them didn't have good replacements. Malcolm didn't have a good replacement. Elijah Muhammad had good replacement, but I don't see another replacement for Farrakhan if he were to go away today. Huey and them didn't have good replacements. You know, and you can always tell when you don't have a good replacement when it either withers or the people who are next in line go and do their own thing. And here's the thing about it. Malcolm went and did his own thing because he had a disagreement. That's different. I'm talking about go do your own thing, and there's no disagreement. All they saw was an opportunity to go do their own thing. Instead of saying that, you know, we started something. We started something real good. We made some strides, and the mission is to control our economics in our community. The mission is to own our land. The mission is to do those things. We're going to continue that. Not go off and start the Rainbow Coalition. Not go off and get a seat in the Senate and in government. But to continue the movement. Continue the movement through leadership that doesn't wither, through leadership that doesn't mean one person is based on one person. Right? I mean, what happened to Gandhi's organization after he died? Where is it? Hell, what happened to Mother Teresa's organization? Now she gone. You don't hear nothing about the organization. It was all about Mother Teresa. Right? What happened to it? Good organization have it where people, the next person steps up. Temple learning got to be that way. It's the only way I do it. It has to be that way. Because who knows? Maybe I get off. That's fine. But more importantly, knowing me, after it's going well enough, I'd be like, hey, Shondell, man, you got this. Y'all, you and Ronald and all y'all, y'all got this. I'm on the beach with a Mai Tai. It should work that way, where people can flow based on what their desires are. I definitely wanted to share that with you guys. It's been on my mind for like a couple weeks now. You know, and that's how we got it. That's how the Temple Learning is built. I'm not gonna say going to be built. It's built because I wouldn't do it any other way. And I know I'm willing to do it now. I wasn't willing to do it for a couple of decades. I'm willing to do it now. But we have to. We talk a lot. So now it's time to start doing. So if you are actually, I've gotten a lot of people who told me they were interested in building this Temple of Wisdom, going to Africa to, put stakes down to move to Africa and Haiti and build business or perform their current trade, in those countries. A lot of people have told me that they're ready to do it. So if that's the case, hey, what's your credit score? You got to be an example, right? We got to be an example of it. Thank you, Ron. We have to be an example. If your credit score is not in the 700s, then those videos that I've done about credit, you need to be on it. If you haven't went to the coachrenz.com /life coaching, I think it's life-coaching. If you haven't went to that page and downloaded the challenge form, there's a challenge form on there that I just had a client. they just hit him and his wife. Just all they've done so far is the challenge letter. They ain't even done none of the other stuff. Just the challenge letter from that one, from the Mastering You challenge letter. And I think he said they got like 31-point boost on the credit score just by challenging things. Another person reorganized all their student loans so that it shows up as one student loan instead of showing up as 14 student loans. Got a 22-point boost on that credit score. So if you truly want to do this with me, then fix your damn credit. You need to fix your credit. If your credit's already fixed, good. But you need to build it. Then you need to start building wealth. And if you're doing that by investing in 401ks and you got 5 shares of Microsoft, ooh. Nope, you got to build something that creates revenue. Or you have to be a great number 1, number 2, number 3, number 4 in a company, and you're building wealth. You're getting equity in a company, right? You come to somebody and say that, hey man, I see what you're doing. If I take over this part of it and we grow sales, by this much over this time frame, I want to get 5% ownership, and then and you got to be set up where you pay out dividends, quarterly or annually or semi-annually, so that you're earning money, but you also earn equity in the company. If it's ever sold, then you have your equity stake in it, and with no dilution. Make sure they can't dilute you down to nothing. But you know what I'm saying? We have to do these things. We have to do these things. We have to take better care of ourselves. Better care of our mind, better care of our body. You have to study, right? Everybody should be able to teach something, all right? You should be able to teach something. You should be, and not that bullshit of if I'm just able to teach one person, then I've done my job. Nope, that ain't gonna cut it, not even slightly. You got to be able to. Something you need to become the subject matter expert over. Some field of understanding, or some trade, or I don't care become the subject matter expert on how to sew, but you have to do something. You keep your focus. Oh, appreciate that, Ronald. And I will. I am getting so laser focused on this thing now. The whole alchemy tour of life, I decided to cancel that tour because the Temple of Wisdom is vital. It's vital. It's vital now. And I'm ready to do it. So I postponed it. I'm going to start cancel. I postponed it. Right? Because I got it. We have to establish leadership. We have to establish some true leadership. Before we can build a temple of learning, leadership has to be established, because the show hell ain't going to just be me. That's for sure. We're not doing that. I'm not that. If I put it all on my shoulders, then the organization is about me, and it's not about the why. The why we do it. So it has to be about that. So I'm looking. I'm looking for some lions. I'm looking for some, and that's when I say lion, lionesses too. I have no care of gender, right? The only thing I care about is you willing to do it, to do the work, to do what's necessary to become a part of the leadership. Yeah, that's right, collective leadership, right? That way it's not about any one person. Sure, some people may be able to give speeches very well. Some people may be able to write very well. Some people can have the ability to be able to spot trends and make more money, but we all have to recognize our talents and use those talents to grow. No one person is more important than the other. No one skill set is more important than the other. All right, because we're talking about, we need to attract people from all different corners of the world and get them into a mindset of this mission of building wealth in the black community, in the diaspora, to be able to do that, and to be able to build nations where we have sovereignty, to take our influence from where we are, like where we are. If we don't have sovereignty, we have influence, to use that influence to help build that sovereignty, so that sovereignty can help build that influence, right? So that we cycle just as much as we cycle the money, we cycle the power, right? We keep cycling the power in the community, we keep cycling the money in the community. We do that, maybe our kids don't get shot in the streets around here no more. Maybe we get rid of that. Maybe we can start holding white America accountable. And I'm not talking about that begging ass accountability of give me reparations. No, I don't want ain't nobody begging for no crap like that. It's about creating and having. Creating and having. Not because you sitting at master's table asking for the crumbs. Nah. Mm-mm. Nope. You'll never see me back reparations. Keep it. Keep it. Keep your reparation. That's a distraction. That's a distraction. What you'll see is I go get my own. I'll get it within your system. And then when I get it within your system, I'm going to turn around and use it to build sovereignty over there. So that if you ever act a fool, if in 50 years you act a fool, my sovereignty over there, I can either go to my sovereignty over there, or my sovereignty over there, look over here and say, the same gun you got pointed at me, I got it pointed at you. You pointed at them, I got it pointed at you. Build that. You know, and we just that's why we inspire the change. We get rid of the myths and all that, and we all own it. We all own it. One of those myths is like, oh, Africans don't want to deal with Americans, and British don't want to deal with Americans. British don't want to deal with that. Oh, that's a bunch of bull. Bunch of bull. I have met and deal with more African people who born and raised in Nigeria and Ghana and Gambia and all these places in Botswana, who we start talking about building together. That's what they care about. That brother from Haiti, oh, he ready. I mean, while we was talking, he calling family members in Haiti. He calling family members in New York and Miami. I mean, he ready. He ready. He breaking down stuff that I ain't even realized, you know, about Haiti. Okay, what we got here? Bourne said, love your nationhood talk, my organization, the BAIO talk, and African diaspora nation state in Africa somewhere. Preaching land and infrastructure. Yep. That's what we're talking about, man. I mean, and we're going to, you know, I initially started this out about one nation. It was all about Botswana. I was on cut tail and son graduate this year. I'm off to Botswana. Forget y'all. Y'all can have this. But it's grown into other people are interested. I honestly didn't think anybody else would be interested. I figured people would just say something, but I didn't think y'all would be really interested in it. And then, you know, I realized that we got a lot of power in the Caribbean. And a lot of people from here would love to go and help build a Caribbean nation. You know, so it's like, hey, let's just do it. And then we got a lot of black folks in places like England and Germany, you know, and France. And we can flip this whole world upside down. Flip the whole world upside down. Create an economic powerhouse. Do you know why the world is in fear of but also respects China? Because China went away from all that hardcore communism and they built economic powerhouse amongst their people. Not the government, but amongst their people. They built economic powerhouse. China has said that in the next 30 years, that I think it's by 2050, so it's by 2050, they expect to have 30% of their people should be millionaires. That's their goal. That's their mission, is to turn 30% of their people into millionaires by 2050. Now imagine a country the size of China and 30% are millionaires. How much power does the Chinese people then have? How much power would they control? How many things would they control? How much influence over the world would they have? That's what I'm talking about. That's a Tao-centric leadership. That's collective leadership. That's getting the people to own it. And if you've got 30% of your people running around as millionaires, what does that tell the children? What does that tell the children? Because look at us. Look at us. Most of the people that our kids grow up seeing who are heroes and sheroes are singers and dancers and athletes and actors. So how do they think their way out is? What do they emulate the most? That's what they emulate. They don't see the business people. They don't emulate them. You know? They emulate that. And what else they emulate? The downtrodden, the hopeless, who run around acting like they got hope. Money, power, respect. That's right. Money, power, respect. I remember that song. But, yeah. I'm not going to keep... I get into a repetitive state if I keep going. Thank you, Ron, for the donation. Like I said, that goes straight to doing things to help to build the Temple of Wisdom. One of the first things that I plan on doing is at some point in this year, not at some point, as soon as possible, as soon as I get enough people locally, I need enough local people who want to get involved. We initially will rent a space. We'll rent a space that we can work out of, where we can teach classes out of. But the goal, right after that, like 12 months later, we need to buy a space. Buy a space. We can't. It always amazes me. I've been to some of these churches, right? Like somebody invited me to a church or whatever, and you go there and they talking about kingdom wealth in a place that they rent. I always looked at them like, you're renting. You've been renting for 7 years. Yeah, that don't make sense. So, but yeah. So we gotta build a place. If you got a group in your city, let's get some teaching going. I already have a lot of stuff I already got documented. And what I don't have documented, we can create. And keep going from there. So I'm about to call it an evening, guys, because I've been up since 4 o'clock this morning. So I'm going to sleep. But I appreciate you guys very, 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 very much. I appreciate you for being here. Thank you for the donation, and thank you for all the comments and all the the inspire me for supporting the idea. But let's do more and talk about it. Let's be about it. Got to be about it. So y'all have a great night. Remember, you got to free yourself to be yourself, because your greatness is not negotiable. I appreciate that, Born.